Put the fucking bread down and shit. So, the time has come to talk about grain and why you shouldn't be fucking eating it. Modern grain is shit, and it's in almost every food in the grocery store that's packaged. Everything. Things you wouldn't expect. It's mixed in meat. It's mixed in just about everything. Some kind of grain product. Whether it's corn, wheat, fucking oats. And it's been pushed on us to be 50% of our diet for the last 50 years. So I want to talk about today why this is, why we got here, and the reason it's pushed as the majority of our diet, and more importantly, why you shouldn't fucking eat it. About 10,000 years ago, some motherfuckers were hungry. They weren't doing too well with the hunting. They had seen these animals grazing in the fucking pastures, eating grass. And they're like, why the fuck can't we eat grass? So they went out. They tried to eat the grass. Ended up taking shits all day. Maybe vomiting. Various other reasons that we can't digest grass because we're not fucking ruminants. They didn't give up there. They said, well, what if we grind up the seeds? Well, that didn't work either. So what if we grind up the seeds, soak them in water, and cook it? Well, they started to see that they could eat. They could get calories that way. And thus, our grain-based diet began, along with agriculture. Because grass is everywhere. It was easy to plant. It was easy to harvest. And it got us the much-needed calories in the survival situation. One could argue if you're suffering from starvation or you're having trouble with your fucking, getting the whole foods or getting the meats and fats that you need, that grain is the next option, before starvation. But sadly, that's not the case for us, at least here in the United States. It's a profit. It's a commodity. It is subsidized by the government. It is pushed on us in our dietary guidelines, and it is in damn near every processed food. And it's destroying our long-term health. It is basically like this foundation that our shitty diet is built on, along with sugar, that is destroying our health. Our gut health is destroyed. Shit's getting in through our gut lining that shouldn't be. And it's a real problem. So as much as I harp on keto and, other diets and carnivore and all of that, which eliminates grain, keto reduces grain but does not eliminate it. There's some processed foods that are okay for keto that have grain in them. For my mother, for example, gets these pop cakes, which are 4 grams. Purely a grain-based fucking product. And grain ingredients are mixed into a lot of processed food. So if your keto diet is processed food heavy, you're probably getting still exposed to grain, albeit in a lot smaller amounts than the standard American fucking diet. So, along with the birth of grain in our fucking food and our agriculture 10,000 years ago, somebody left that porridge that they were becoming really adept at making to feed the masses, because famines were a thing back then. We didn't have the logistics we have today. We didn't have the technology we have today. So starvation was a thing. And that was probably arguably a good reason to have grain in the diet back then, is to prevent famine. Yes, you may be introducing more chronic disease into the mix, but you're reducing starvation in the process. Unfortunately, that's not the case anymore, yet grain is more pushed than ever to feed the masses. Some can argue that we can't feed the masses with meat and fat. I know in the United States it's plenty available, but expensive. And that could be an argument for why people eat grain. But the healthcare associated with the chronic disease is more expensive than eating whole foods, vegetables, and meats and fats. It's a simple equation. You're trading off cheap food for now and cheap calories for now for increased medical costs in the long term. And this is the business model on which our entire economy is founded. You know, first you eat these foods, they destroy your health long term, then you're in the medical treadmill, or you're along the way you're also in the weight loss treadmill and the health and wellness treadmill. You're in all these fucking treadmills that are sucking the money and time out of your life, all because you're eating grain. I can sit here and tell you all day the things that are bad, you know, about consuming grain on a regular basis and the things it does to you. But the bottom line is, if your economics and your food environment do not support the ability to eat healthy, then you're going to be eating grain, most likely. If you are economically challenged, you're probably going to be eating grain because it's cheap. If you eat out all the time, you're definitely eating grain because it's mixed in just about every food that's cooked and prepared for you in restaurants and fast food places. It's almost unavoidable for some people. Not everyone. But it definitely requires a lot of vigilance to eliminate from your diet. I recently read Dr. William Davis's book, Wheat Belly Total Health. It's not to be confused with Wheat Belly. It's like the next iteration of it. I haven't really read the original Wheat Belly. I started with the newer edition, figuring he'd have newer shit in there. And the link to that is in the description below, and I can't recommend it enough. I'm not even finished with it yet, and I'm already ready to recommend it because there is a lot of good scientific information. He has a lot of clinical data, as in people came to him, he eliminated grain in their diet, he documented the results, he documented their progress, and they showed drastic improvement. Now, these aren't keto motherfuckers, these aren't vegans, these are just people that said, I'm not doing grain anymore, which left them with a Whole Foods, probably more paleo style diet. Now, paleo isn't perfect for other reasons, and plants aren't perfect for many reasons, which we can get into with the whole carnivore versus plants debate, which is starting to rear its head in media. But it's not there yet because it hasn't gone popular, it hasn't gone fucking mainstream, but it's on my radar, and it's on my radar to do again, by the way. I will be doing a carnivore experiment because I do believe our industrial agriculture is fucked up right now. But the book goes over a whole bunch of reasons why grain destroys our health. You already know I've hyped on the glyphosate thing. If you look at the Monsanto video I recently did, I'll link that in the description below in case you're interested. Glyphosate is very heavily found in wheat products because they use desiccation. That's where they chemically ripen their crops to make the harvest more productive and more easy for the farmers. And in so doing, increasing your glyphosate consumption. And we know that glyphosate can destroy your gut microbiome, can reduce your mineral exposure because it binds to minerals and makes them biounavailable. And it basically permeates your gut wall and causes things proteins and things that you might be allergic to be able to get through, causing autoimmune problems. So if you're experiencing all of those symptoms and you don't eat grain, I would take a good long look at the vegetables you consume to see what the fuck might be fucking with you. Elimination diet is still the best diet, and I would argue that a carnivore diet for 30 days is a great baseline for an elimination style diet, because you could, gradually reintroduce the foods you want into your diet, and the moment you see a drastic result or a negative consequence for a food, you can say that food is something I shouldn't be eating. And I would advise this because we all might have different tolerances, we might have different abilities to deal with some of these toxins and some of these things. Some of our foods might not be as tainted with glyphosate or any of these other issues like lectins and stuff like that, the plant defenses that destroy our health. And we all might have different tolerances to those plant defenses. And we have to think about that, especially in terms of grain. Now, the grain of today is not the grain of 7,000 years ago that they decided to make bread with. They left their porridge out for a few days, Some shit grew in it, some yeast. They said, oh, well, rather than starve, let's heat this up and hopefully it kills anything that makes us sick. And in the process, they realized they could make bread, and thus bread was born. And we all know how prevalent bread is in our diets today. Enough about the politics and the food environment. You know, the bottom line is grain is pushed because it's a way to feed the masses cheaply. It's not some overarching desire. It's economics. It's very profitable. It's easy to grow. We also use it to feed our livestock and fatten them up, which, by the way, that has the same effect on you. You can look at farming research and see what they use grain for on livestock. And it's plain as day. But when it comes to humans, apparently grain doesn't seem to fatten us, right? Come on. You can't have one area of science say, we're going to use grain to fatten up our livestock quicker to increase our fucking yield, and then say, hey, it's healthy for you as you humans. You're not going to get fat. You're not going to get diabetes. You're not going to get all these fucking issues if you eat grain. So you eat the fucking grain and you get fat and you get all these issues, and they're like, they won't acknowledge that the grain has anything to do with it, because that is a huge pillar of our economy and nutrition. And it is found in tons of foods. You look at the ingredients list on any processed food, and you will see some grain-based product in there, along with sugar, most likely. Now, I've demonized sugar for various reasons, and sugar is still one of the, there's multiple causes for our health epidemics, and they're all like in this perfect storm that is causing this. And grain has a large role to play in this. Why are we so addicted to grain? That's another thing. You ever notice that people are addicted to grain? They gotta have their pizza, they gotta have their fucking bread, they gotta have their pasta. There's an opiate effect caused by gliadin. And it's not the kind of opiate that you fucking chase the dragon with and you fucking get all fucking drugged up on. No. It's an appetite stimulant. You ever notice when you go to a fucking restaurant, they put a big fucking plate of bread there for you to eat? Are you full after you eat that bread? No. You eat that whole fucking meal and then you order fucking dessert. Why? Because it's an appetite stimulant, and they know it. That's why they serve you the bread for free. They don't charge you for that fucking bread. Here you go, have all the bread you want. It's cheap for them to make. It's cheap for them to fucking do. And there's been studies that have shown you'll consume on average 300 to 400 more calories. That's an average per meal with grain, with bread. You can look that shit up. Google's a thing. It causes food obsession. And there was also a drug experiment where they introduced an opiate blocker to people who were consuming grain. And the ones that got the opiate blocker consumed less calories than the ones who didn't. So that's pretty significant. Here we have this very addictive substance on us. Only if we process it, mind you. And most grain is heavily processed, and if you look at the bread on the store shelves, it's a double whammy because they're putting sugar in that shit too. So between the sugar and the fucking gliadin, you're fucking addicted. And it keeps you hungry to buy more food. You eat more food and consume more and spend more, and it destroys your long-term health in the process, sending you into that fucking pit of hell where you're on medications throughout the last 20 years of your life, where you're in the medical treadmill, where your fucking depression and anxiety levels are off the charts, because that is diet related. And you're just losing all this time, money, and energy and well-being for some cheap-ass food. Is it worth it? And the pleasure you get out of it, I can tell you from experience, doesn't last very long. It doesn't last very long at all. All plants have this. Plants chemically defend themselves. But grain has lectins in it. Lectins are proteins which are toxic. So if you're eating it, it's going to have a reaction. And there is a threshold of tolerance. Dose determines the poison. But our dose of grain is very high. If you're eating 50% of your fucking daily needs, your daily caloric intake is from grains, which is what's recommended. You're getting huge doses of lectins at that point. Some are benign to us, some don't affect us, some we've adapted to over the last 10,000 years. Not a lot, though. And if you look around at the explosion in celiac disease, clearly these harmful lectins and proteins are getting through our gut wall because it's permeated not only by the grain itself and the plant defenses, which can cause this permeation of our gut wall, this leaky gut, but it's also from the glyphosate issue. So between the glyphosate and our shitty grain, you know, if you look back at ancient Egypt, they knew, you know, we know that once we introduced agriculture, we also upped chronic disease. The Egyptians were pretty good at depicting obesity in their art, in their wall drawings, and their history. They were also very good at preserving the dead, so we were able to figure out how motherfuckers died and what they died of. So heart disease was a thing. All of these things came into play, and when bounced off of the hunter-gatherer remains that we've discovered over the years, we introduced chronic disease when we went to grain-based agriculture. And maybe that wouldn't have been so bad if we'd have left it at that, but over the last 50 years, we've tripled down on that. And we've added things to our grain and GMO'd the shit out of our grain so that it is nothing like the grain of those days. You know, if we wanted to eat grain, we need to do it in a way that's more like back then when we first started doing it, instead of all of this biotech and chemicals that we're lacing our foods with today that are just making an already disturbing trend with grain worse. So between the gliadin and lectins, your gut wall is permeated. It is letting in gluten. You know, a lot of people are like, I'm gluten intolerant. No, you have a leaky gut that is allowing the gluten to trigger an autoimmune response, hence celiac disease breaking out in record amounts, largely since the introduction of glyphosate into the mix. When your gut wall is permeated, these lectins that you might otherwise not be reacting to get into your blood and fuck you up. And you have autoimmune problems, you have anxiety, you have inflammation, you have chronic inflammation. You know, it just withers you away. And unless you fix it, you're going to deteriorate a lot sooner than someone who is grain-free. So if health is a concern to you, and weight loss, obviously, for obvious reasons, the glycemic index of most grains is above sugar, because fructose is half of sugar, and fructose does not cause an insulin response. So between the grain and sugar, you're getting double whammied. I would argue grain is doing some more damage to you because it's causing leaky gut. Now there's another thing called phytates that are involved in grain, which present the absorption of many fucking minerals that you need. And not just from the grain, but from other foods you eat with the grain. So when you have that big healthy piece of bread, right before you eat your fucking salad, right before you eat your healthy whole food meal, or you make a sandwich, you're not absorbing the minerals. There is data that shows that as you consume this shit, that it reduces your mineral absorption in every food that you eat. So when you're eating that shit, which they try and fortify with vitamins, but what good's fortifying wheat products and bread with vitamins and minerals that we supposedly need if those same wheats are blocking your absorption of the minerals? Plants do this as well. There's certain plants that will block your absorption of nutrients, which is why a lot of vegans end up with some kind of nutrient deficiencies, because they're probably eating one of the plants that they're eating isn't jiving. And I would argue if you're a vegan, you should do an elimination diet and start with the safest food that you know you eat and work your way out from there. But nutrient deficiencies are a long-term thing. You don't notice them in the short term, so it's harder to do that. That's why I argue that carnivore is the better baseline for an elimination-style diet. Some argue that the genetic changes of wheat have caused a fourfold increase in celiac disease. My personal theory is it has nothing to do with that. It's the glyphosate and the gut permeability issue exposing us to a lot more gluten. But there is a higher gluten content on top of that because of the genetic modification that's happened over the fucking years. Grain is bad. And if you've been keto a while and off the grain for a while, or even carnivore for that matter, and you eat a big pasta meal, you're going to know it. You're going to get bloated, you're going to get inflamed, your energy's going to tank, and you will, if you have allergies, you'll see those allergies return. Me personally, I was breaking out in hives. I was having allergic reactions. I couldn't get near a cat. I couldn't fucking be out in the springtime without being stuffed up with red puffy eyes. That's gone away since I've reduced my grain consumption to minimal. It's not eliminated because I do have cheat days. But it's within that threshold that I can recover quickly from any damage I do to my gut lining when I have that once every 3 weeks or longer cheat day. Bottom line is, grain's fucking you. If there's grain in your diet and you're having autoimmune problems, you're overweight or obese, you are diabetic, you are having any digestive issues whatsoever, you have celiac disease, there is no healthy whole grain in this mix. Grains need to go. And I promise you, if you eliminate grains over the course of 6 to 8 weeks, you will see an improvement in all of those symptoms. You will lose weight. Your autoimmune issues will decline or be eliminated in some cases. You will see a drastic improvement if you eliminate grain. Our grain is fucked right now. It's been fucked from the beginning. But mark my words, over the last 50 years, we industrialized it, we made it a commodity, we made it a huge part of the economy, and we increased our consumption of it because we mandated that we have 50% of our calories from grain. Now, if you're in a famine, or you're poor, and you can't afford to eat meat and fat, then yes, grain's the only alternative to keep your calories, to feed you. But that's not an excuse if you have these foods available, and even though they might cost a few more dollars, they're going to save you a hell of a lot of money in long-term health if you eat the healthy whole foods, the organic meats and fats, and avoid grain. And of course sugar. And carbs, if we're talking about it. But I argue that ketosis is only necessary to correct all of these failures of our diet over the fucking past 50 years. You could be out of ketosis, I think, and eat a healthy whole foods diet, heavy in meat, healthy fats, and probably no more than 100 grams of carbs a day. This is assuming that you're in perfect health to start with, and probably live a long, healthy, fruitful life. But unfortunately, we've damaged ourselves to the point where we have to look to ketosis, to having in some people's cases under 30 grams a day to correct the results of our shitty health over the past 50 years that is continuing this downward spiral. Our obesity has been on a straight upward tick the entire time ever since we started this heavy processed foods, heavily grain-based, sugar-based diet that we've been on. And while subsequently reducing our consumption of healthy fats and healthy proteins and meats. And as we push to the plant-based world, as this plant-based campaign continues to rear its ugly head in our food and nutrition guidelines and our media, and we're just constantly being nudged to a plant-based diet, that is essentially a grain-based diet. Because unless you're going to eat fucking salads all the time, grain's going to be a heavy part of your caloric intake on those diets, and your health is going to show the results of that. And there's many vegans who fall off the vegan diet, and I believe part of that isn't just from the problems with our plant agriculture and the chemicals therein, but also because a lot of vegans rely heavily on grain. Grain is a staple. Vegan pizza, vegan cookies, vegan this, vegan that, all bad. So even you fucking vegans who I still think are fucking up by being vegan, but that's my personal opinion, could probably benefit from reducing grain if you're experiencing those issues. But if you're eating grain and you think you're on top of the world, maybe you're in your 20s still, or maybe even your 30s, you made it to your 30s, and you're going to the gym, you're pounding the fuckmaster, and you think, I can eat all the grain I want, I'm going to be fine. Don't listen to me then. And someday, you're going to regret it. Someday, you're going to hit that health wall. Hopefully, you make it pretty far before you do. I hope you do. I wish you the best. For me personally, I know whenever I consume something that's grain, and this includes beer, by the way, which is enjoyed by many. I haven't had beer in a very long time. The more you do it, the longer you do it, the worse it's going to be for you as you age. And the more medications you're going to be on, the more autoimmune issues and inflammation you're going to experience, and the more digestive problems you're going to have in the long run. And the reduction in my allergic reactions and just my overall improvement since I removed grain from the mix, I can't stress it enough that if you do nothing else, if you don't want to go keto, you're like, fuck keto, go paleo at least. At least paleo, you eliminate grain. You don't really reduce your sugar that much, because you're eating lots of fruit, you're getting honey, you're getting organic cane shit. So I'm not a 100% a paleo guy, but at least paleo supposedly eliminates grain, because paleo is supposed to eliminate anything post-agriculture, and grain is post-agriculture. And we haven't adapted to eat it yet. Now, we could adapt to eat it over the next 10,000 years. I'm not going to be around for that. Neither are you. But we can press on and die off, and eventually our genetic adaptations may allow us to tolerate a grain-based diet. Maybe we'll grow a bigger cecum. Maybe we'll get an extra stomach like a fucking herbivore. I don't know. I don't want to be a cow myself. I don't want to be a ruminant. I'm happy to kill and eat meat. That's fine by me. If it keeps me healthy, if it makes me survive, that's fine. So, that's my thoughts on grain. If you're having problems, even on a ketogenic diet, if you're having problems, look to see what hidden grains you're consuming. Because just because you're low carb doesn't mean there isn't some kind of grain products in your foods if you're doing dirty keto and you're eating processed foods in your diet. It is added to a lot of foods, almost unavoidably. So just because you're avoiding bread, and just because you see that label that says this is vegan, non-GMO, heart-healthy, fucking whole grain, doesn't help you. Whole grain is just as unhealthy as the refined carbs, the refined grains, the white flour. Albeit, you might get a little bit more nutrition out of the whole grain. The gut permeability issue, the phytates, the lectins, all of that is still in the mix, not to mention the glyphosate that it's all soaked in. So, get the fucking grain out of your diet. It's really that simple. But what the fuck do I know? Because I'm not an expert. I'm just an asshole. I got a lot of positive feedback on my last video, and I want to take the time to thank you guys who went out and downloaded the podcast and bought the podcast. Link to the podcast is below. And the overwhelming, not just financial support that you guys stepped up to fill in the gaps of because I was on the verge of just saying, oh, fuck it, I'll do one video a week and get on with my life. And you guys really stepped up and let me know that you're going to continue to support the channel, not just financially, but also by watching. And it was overwhelming, the positive support I got on that last video. Like, almost brought me to tears a little bit. And I just wanted to take a minute to say thank you for that, because you've caused me to double down on my work on the channel. I haven't worked Uber the past few days. I've been working on content. I did another adventure video to edit this weekend, and of course this nutrition video. I'm doing the podcast again tomorrow, and it's really helped me. It's inspired me to continue to really work hard on this channel and put the time in, even though the time may be unpaid. And try and give you guys a little more. So the way I'm trying to give you guys a little more is I've expanded my platforms that I'm going to post on. Up until now, it's been YouTube and ScottTheTruckDriver.com, and ScottTheTruckDriver.com is still the hub to find out everything and to see all these other posts and platforms. So if you go there and you click the social icons there, it'll bring you to anywhere that I'm posting. In addition to that, I have rebranded my Instagram from my photography over to Scott the Truck Driver, and will be posting there regularly, at least daily. And it might be stupid shit. I don't know. It's new to me to do this short form content, this very short form content. I mean, we're talking videos a minute long, or pictures and posts that are related to the subjects and things that I find important. But I'm going to start posting on Instagram daily. I'm also really going to hit Twitter as well. Twitter seems to not be going anywhere in terms of discussing information amongst, peers and stuff like that. So you can follow me on Instagram at Scott the Truck Driver. And the more people I get there, the more I will work on that platform. And the same thing on Twitter, which is at ScottTTD. The links to these are in the description. They're also in the social icons on ScottTheTruckDriver.com. When you first get to the landing page, you see a bunch of icons across the bottom. Every social platform that I will post to is there. To a lesser degree, I have Snapchat. I'm probably not keeping up with that as much. And of course, my Facebook fan page is still there, which mirrors pretty much everything I do on Instagram and on ScottTheTruckDriver.com. So I'm really trying to bring more people to the platform by using these other platforms, hopefully help grow the channel a little bit more that way. And at the same time, provide you guys with another short form. Okay, maybe I didn't post but maybe 2 videos this week, but at least you can go there and kind of keep up with things. For example, I've been posting about my 72-hour fat fast that I'm currently in the middle of, and is going well. I'm down to 191.5 pounds. I'm trying to get down to the upper 180s again, which I've slacked a little on. But I've been building a little muscle in that period too, so there's that. I'm still at 35.5 inches around the belly. So I'm kind of going to use that as kind of a way to kind of keep in touch with not only the fasting, the keto, and the lifestyle, but also the adventures and maybe some behind the scenes to what is going on with me on my daily life. There seems to be a little bit of an interest in the other things I do and talk about, and my other interests and my other opinions. I'm an opinionated fuck, so I tend to feel strongly. You'll see a lot more of that on Twitter than on Instagram, but you'll see a little bit on Instagram when I can find something that goes well with a picture or a video, or in the Instagram stories. I'll be doing the Instagram stories and shit too, which are the little, one-offs that go away after 24 hours. Snapchat, not as much, maybe. I don't know. If I get enough people on Snapchat, I'll probably start doing little stories there as well. And, of course, on the Facebook fan page, which is facebook.com/ScottTheTruckDriver as well, you'll see that, pretty much all my website content mirrored there, and the problem I have with Facebook and Instagram is they're not very on the spot. They need engagement in order to share your posts with all the people who follow you. So if you're really interested and you want to follow everything that's going on, just don't rely on your news feed. Go and check out my profiles on those, and you'll see my latest posts. And it's the same here on YouTube, because YouTube is heading that way. You're not going to just because you're a subscriber doesn't mean you're going to see in your subscriptions feed right away all my posts, or you might not know that I posted videos. So ScottTheTruckDriver.com and my blog there is still the best way to keep up with most of what's going on. Plus, it mirrors my Instagram. I'm looking at ways to mirror my Twitter there as well, so that I want one central hub. And of course, Patreon.com. This is my reward, and it could fail, or this channel could still tank. I'm doing the best I can to grow it still with the new content intact. You guys have spoken pretty strongly that you enjoy the new adventure videos, even though that some that don't enjoy it have already left. I do feel that we're still able to grow with the new content as well as the old. Some people are getting burnt out on me talking about the same shit in nutrition over and over again, so there's that. And I really do want to diversify my content to encompass all of life, not just nutrition, not just fasting, not just health. I want it to grow to a point where, you know, you can find wisdom and improvement through all of the things I'm experimenting with to improve my mental health and just my quality of life in general, and what I'm doing with this newfound time since I became minimalist and got out of the corporate world. I could just sit on my ass and watch fucking TV or play fucking video games all the time, but I'm not doing that. I'm spending the time either working, making content, doing the things I'm passionate about, or both at the same time, which is what the adventure videos are. It's me doing what I want to do, but I'm sharing it with you, which is work. A lot of work. Especially the editing. I'm not looking forward to the editing. The editing's a pain in the ass. First thing I'm going to do if I ever become one of those million subscriber YouTubers is hire a fucking editor, because I don't want to edit and shit. But as this grows, the content will grow. As I can free up my time from these other income streams, which is the goal, I can devote more time to producing content and growing the channel. As it stands, the reason I'm doing these other platforms is to try and grow the channel on the go, because a lot of this I can do from my phone, which is a big thing, which means if I'm taking a shit, I can be promoting the channel. I can be having a debate about keto. I can be doing research. These are all things I do. I listen to audiobooks regularly. I do a lot of research. I'm going to continue to do these things to grow the channel. I'm always going to have opinions on nutrition, so there's always going to be these kind of videos. I'm always going to be keeping up with the latest diet trends and the mainstream media's assault on what real healthy diet is. And I'm going to draw attention, and I'm going to be triggered from time to time, and that's basically what there is. But fuck grain, really. Fuck grain, fuck sugar, and that's what it boils down to. And watch my old shit too. That's the other thing. A lot of the things, I get people that ask me things that I've already discussed in previous videos. My whole journey's documented. If you look at my first two videos, which have absolutely nothing to do with anything, but they show where I was, both physically and mentally, I've come a long way. And I don't think there's any room to dispute that when you look at the juxtaposition between the way I was in my first few videos and the way I am today. And the entire journey from there to here is there for you to see. I started out making a lot of the same mistakes many of you have. I started out doing a lot of the same fucked up shit that a lot of people I see around me are still doing, and that many of you have overcome, some of you, because you've also been on this journey. But my whole journey is there. So if you're ever bored and you haven't watched all the old videos, it's a journey, and you'll laugh because you'll see how far I've come knowledge-wise since then too. There's things I say back then that were just fucked up, and there's maybe even things now. The journey's not over. The journey continues. That I say that aren't fucking, that might be mistaken, that I might have fucked up. Live and learn. That's why I will never say that I'm an expert, because I'm learning as I go. And as you can see with the survival shit, where I pretty much know jack shit, and I'm trying to learn it because I want to learn it, because I believe it'll help me be a better, stronger person. That's where I'm at. So once again, thank you to all of those of you who have stuck it out with the new content and love it, and that are sticking around. I can't promise every video is going to be a hit out of the park because I'm experimenting with a lot of this, but I can promise you I'm going to keep working for you. That's a thing. You guys have stepped up, so I need to step up as well and keep working for you guys. And I will. Whether it's to entertain, to enlighten, or to answer your questions, I'm here for you and shit, because you guys have been there for me. Please like and subscribe for more shit. especially to replace the people that left because of the new shit I post. Please, if you haven't downloaded the podcast, that will help me greatly. It's only $5 a pop if you download it, or you can go to patreon.com, and for $15 a month you get all the podcasts for free as they're posted. So I hope to see you there. The podcast will be long form, 2 hours minimum, sometimes longer depending on how much I run my fucking mouth. So go check them out. And that helps support the channel as well, and it gives you something in return that you can consume that while you're doing other things. You know, you can listen to it. You can even listen to it at double speed or some shit. You know, save you a little time, get some more shit. I don't know. I listen to some audiobooks at double speed just to get it done quicker. That's it for this video. Next video will be an adventure video that I got to work on, and the podcast will be coming up Friday as usual. Have a nice motherfucking day and shit. And please follow me on Instagram, follow me on Twitter, and there'll be a little bit more snippets of content there as I go through my day. Have a nice motherfucking day and shit. And that grain. Stop the grain. I see it all the time too. People eating grain and then wondering why they're fucked up. But baby steps, I guess, and shit.